Hi, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. I'm going to demonstrate how to make this really cute cat quilt block. Now I made it into a pillow, or you can put it on a tote bag or even put it into a quilt. I've just used two different fabrics. Now in this video demonstration, I will not be demonstrating how to put this little heart on here, which is using a technique called machine applique. But if you're interested in learning about machine applique, I'll have a link below your YouTube screen so you can put this on there if you like. Now let's take a look at the supply list that you need to make this quilt block. Now, if you have never cut out quilt fabric before and you're not really sure how to get started, I have a video that's called Tips for Cutting Quilt Fabric that will help you understand how to lay out your fabric and the kind of rulers that you need. Now, for this quilt block, you can either get 2 fat quarters or get 1/4 yard of 2 different fabrics. Now, the first section we're going to talk about is the cat itself. So for the body, you're going to need one 6.5 by 11.5 inch piece. For the head, 4.5 by 6.5. Ears, you're going to need 2.5 inch squares. The tail, 1.5 by 2.5 and 1.5 by 10.5. For the background pieces, your background fabric, you're going to need one that's 2.5 by 6.5, 4 1.5 inch squares, one that's 2.5 by 5.5, one that is 1.5 by 4.5, another one 3.5 by 5.5, and another one 1.5 by 3.5. We are going to start by making the cat ears first. So get your piece that's 2.5 inches wide this way by 6.5 inches this way. Then you're going to need 2 of your squares that are 2.5 inches square. So this is the cat fabric, this is the background fabric. Take each of your 2.5 inch squares, place your ruler on it going corner to corner, and then draw a line. So do that on both pieces. Now place your 2.5 inch squares on each side of your background piece. Now your diagonal lines start from this lower bottom and they go up towards this corner here. This piece starts more towards the center also and goes up to this corner. Now when you're stitching on this, you're not going to stitch on the drawn line. You're going to stitch right next to it on this side. And on this piece, you're going to stitch on this side of the line. So you're not stitching on top of the line, but right next to it, really close. After you're done stitching, we're now going to cut the lower corners off of each piece. So place the 1/4 inch line on your stitch line and then just trim this part off. Then you're going to trim this side off. Put your 1/4 inch line on there, trim it off. Now it should look like this. So press your seams, then unfold and press on top, and then make sure you press the seam towards the cat ear fabric. Now we're going to make the cat head. So you want your 4.5 by 6.5 piece of the cat fabric, and then take 2 of your 1.5 inch squares and draw lines from corner to corner. Then place them on the lower portion of the block, and you're going to again place it to where the diagonals are going like this, and then over here just opposite. Then you're going to again do that stitching on the outside of the line on this side of this one, and over here on this side. So again, you're not stitching on top of the line, but right next to it on the two outer edges. Then you're going to cut the two lower corners off. So place your 1/4 inch line on that stitch line and then trim it off, and then go over here to the other corner, place your 1/4 inch line on your ruler on that stitch line, and then trim it off. Then at your ironing board, go ahead and press your seams and unfold these and press them towards the lower corner. Now you're going to attach the ears to the head. So place it front side down on top, and then stitch 1/4 inch seam across the top, and then press this and unfold and press this seam towards the cat head. One of the reasons why people get frustrated when quilting is they find when they're done with the whole block, everything is off. It's lopsided, it's stretching in weird directions. And one of the big mistakes that people make is they don't square up as they go along. So what I mean by squaring up, right now this block should finish at 6.5 inches. So place a ruler down and line up those 6.5 inch lines on your block. And if anything is sticking out, you should trim it off and make adjustments where necessary. Next step is to put the body of the cat together. So this is the 6.5 by 11.5 inch piece, and these two are 1.5 inch squares. Again, you're going to draw lines on these two squares going from corner to corner, and then place the squares where the lines are going down this way, like this. And then again, you're going to stitch next to the drawn line on this side, and then over here, you're going to stitch on this side of the line. Place your 1/4 inch line on the stitch line and trim the lower corner off, and then do the same thing over here. Trim off this lower corner, place the 1/4 inch line on the stitch line. Then at your ironing board, press the squares and press the squares to where they go down towards the bottom. The next step is to work on the tail, and the part of the tail we're working on is at the very end of the tail where it curves up. So you need a background piece that is 4.5 by 1.5, and then the cat fabric 1.5 by 2.5. And I want you to just lay it anywhere across there. Line up an edge here, these two edges together, and then you're going to draw a line that's going to go from this lower corner right here up to where the cat and the background fabric come together. So from here down to there. This is going to be your stitch line. Let me see here. I'm at an angle where it's hard for me to see. And then just draw that line. Now take it down here at the end of the background fabric. And you're going to stitch on this side of the line right next to that line, down to that corner. So from here down to there. After you're done stitching, then place your 1/4 inch line on the ruler on that stitch line and cut this lower corner off. Then at your ironing board, press this seam and then unfold it and press it to where it looks like this. Next step is to put the background fabric around this end of the tail. So this is 2.5 by 5.5, and this one is 3.5 by 5.5. So just place this one on top of the tail, stitch 1/4 inch along here, and then place this one on top of the other side of the tail and stitch 1/4 inch. Here's just a little tip for you. Another mistake that people do when they're first learning how to quilt is they don't press their seams as they go along. This pressing is just as important as correctly cutting out the fabric, and just as important on doing that 1/4 inch seam. So always press your seams as you go along. And I've pressed the seams going away from each other. So the seam here and here are going towards the background pieces. When you're done with this part of it, it should come out to 5.5 this way by 6.5 this way. So you would want to line up your ruler and get it on the 5.5 inch line over here and make sure it's 6.5 on both sides. If anything is sticking out, you need to go ahead and trim that off. The next step is to add these two sides together. So you're going to take the tail, the end of the tail side, and attach it to the cat head. So bring the two pieces, front sides together, and then stitch along this edge 1/4 inch, press the seam, and unfold and press again. And make sure you press this seam all going in the same direction. Now you're going to attach the body of the cat. So make sure this is the edge that's going up against here. Bring them on top of each other. Line up your edges along this side here. And then you're going to stitch 1/4 inch seam along here. After you do your stitching, you're going to go ahead and press this seam and then unfold and press the seam on top. And I would press this seam towards the cat body. Now you need to do another squaring up on this. At this point, this block should be 11.25 inches going this way and 12.5 inches going this way. So what I'm going to do is I have just a little bit sticking out over here. So I've put my 11.25 inch line on my ruler. I've put it on this edge here, and I'm going to clean up this edge. So just take it, line it up, and trim that edge off. Now we're ready for the last part of the tail. To finish the tail, you need a piece that is 10.5 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. And then your background fabric needs to be 3.5 inches long by 1.5 inches wide. Then you're going to take this piece and just place it anywhere on this 10.5 inch strip and line up this edge here. And then we're going to draw that diagonal line again. So you're going to draw it from where the background fabric and the cat fabric come together right up here, and you're going to draw a line down to this lower corner. Then take it over to the end here. Lay it just like this. Line it up on that edge. And then you're going to stitch on this side of the line. So stitch right next to it down to that lower corner. Next step is to trim this lower corner off. So go ahead and place your 1/4 inch line on that seam line. And then go ahead and trim that off. Then go ahead and press the seam on the back. And then I would turn this and press this seam towards the cat fabric. And then it should look like this. Now it's time to stitch the last part of the tail on. So place it like this, and then place it on top, bringing front sides together. Line up your edges along here and stitch 1/4 inch. Then press the seam on the back side, and then unfold and press the seam on top. And I would press this seam towards this part of the cat tail. After you're done stitching on the tail, now this is where the moment of truth comes, and you need to do your final squaring to see if it comes out to 12 and a half by 12 and a half. So if you're going to be a quilter, probably one of the most important rulers you can have is this 12 and a half inch square ruler. And so I would buy one. Your results are going to be so much better. So you would place your ruler down there and see if anything is sticking out. And if it is, you would trim it off. Now, if you found you came up short, your block is not exactly 12 and a half by 12 and a half, maybe it came out to 12 and a quarter by 12 and a quarter. So there is a video I have created that talks about just that problem. If you're going to make a bunch of these cat blocks and put it into a quilt, it is so important that all of your blocks are squared up to the same size. But because I only made a pillow out of this, I can square it up to whatever size I want and go ahead and put a border around it. So that then you could always extend the width of your border so you could create that pillow size. So the pillow you saw at the very beginning of this video was a 16-inch pillow. I used a 16-inch square pillow form. So you could just add border to fill in to make up the difference. So let's say your block came out to exactly 12 and a half by 12 and a half. Then you would cut 2.5 inch wide strips. But if it came out shorter than that, then of course you would cut your strips wider if you were going to make that 16-inch pillow. So you would cut out 2 strips that are 2.5 by 12 and a half. Go ahead and stitch it on each side. Okay, then press those seams. Press it on the back as well as on the front. Then you would cut 2 more strips for the top and the bottom. So you would just measure across and cut strips that are whatever that width is. And then you would just go ahead and stitch them on each end. So if you needed to cut your border wider because you wanted to make that 16-inch pillow, then of course you would cut these strips wider. I went ahead and stitched a border on it. As I said, you can either turn it into a pillow, but I'm even thinking about putting this on the front of a tote bag. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Now, to get other quilt block tutorial videos, check below your YouTube screen for the video links. And remember, if you want to do this little cute heart applique, also check below your YouTube screen for the video link. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and check out my Facebook page. Thanks for watching and happy sewing, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click on the thumbs up button. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red subscribe button down there in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Click on the bell so you can receive notifications about my latest videos. I'm Cheryl, and this is Scotty, and this is Manny. See you next time, and happy sewing!